Her best friend humiliated me. She deserves someone better. My response shut. For 3 years, my life with Sophia was good. Great, actually. I'm a lawyer, so my daily work basically consists of dealing with the worst parts of human nature. Coming home to her was like taking a breath of fresh air. She was a law intern, sharp as a tack, with that inner fire to get into UNAM law school and make a name for herself. I love that about her. We were a team, building a life in a house in Polanco that I'd spent years restoring. It felt solid, real. I wasn't just paying bills for a girlfriend. I was investing in the woman I was going to marry. But there was always the static, a low-level hum that something wasn't quite right. And that static had a name. Bruno. Bruno was her best friend from college. He was a graphic designer, one of those guys who call themselves artists and act like working 9 to 5 is a fate worse than death. Meanwhile, he designed menus for taco joints in Colonia Roma, barely scraping together rent. According to Sophia, he was her ride or die, her platonic soulmate, the guy who protected her. To me, he was a leech with a superiority complex who'd made it his life's mission to undermine our relationship. And he was a professional at it. I'll give him that. He never did anything you could directly call him out for. It was all subtle digs, little poisoned darts disguised as compliments. Her ex-boyfriend, Adrian, a musician who'd broken her heart, was his favorite topic. If I took Sophia on a nice vacation to Tulum, Bruno would find a way to mention some spontaneous camping trip he and Sophia once took to Valle de Bravo. Remember that, Sophia? He'd say, all wistful. You can't plan moments like that. You just have to be with someone who understands your free spirit. The message was always the same. I was the boring, safe option, and he was the guardian of the exciting life she was leaving behind. And Sophia bought it all. She was completely fooled by his protective friend act. Every time I hinted that he was crossing the line, she got defensive. He's just being Bruno. He was there for me when Adrian broke my heart. He's just worried about me. He's family, Santiago. I'm a patient guy. You have to be in my line of work. You don't jump on the first piece of evidence. You wait. You let the other side talk. You let them build their own case against themselves. And you wait for them to hand you the rope. I waited for Bruno to hand me the rope. The moment came a month ago. I just won the biggest case of my career. 6 months of my life gone. Countless sleepless nights. Weekends buried in files. But we won, and it was a massive achievement for my firm and for me. To celebrate, I organized a dinner. My closest friends, the ones who'd barely seen me in half a year, were all there. And because I was still trying to be the good guy, I told Sophia to invite her friends, which of course meant Bruno would come. The night was perfect. The house was full of good people. The expensive wine from Valle de Guadalupe that I'd been saving was open. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was truly relaxing. Bruno, naturally, was taking advantage of the free alcohol and acting like he co-owned the place. He got a few drinks in and decided it was time for his performance. He started with a long, boring speech about an art exhibition that was really just an excuse to talk about the difference between creators and suits. It's just a different way of seeing the world, he said, looking directly at me. Some of us are driven by passion, by art. Others are more practical. He took a long, slow sip of my wine. My friends knew his game and shot him looks that could curdle milk. I just gave him a tight smile and refused to engage. But he wasn't done. He turned to Sophia, putting on his best concerned friend face. I just hope you're happy, Sophia, he said, his voice dripping with fake sincerity. I mean, Santiago's a great guy. He's stable. He's a provider. He paused. He's reliable. He said reliable, like it was a dirty word. Then he paused, looked me dead in the eyes, and let a smug little smirk spread across his face. But you have to admit, she could get someone way better than you. And there was the rope. The entire table went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. My friends looked like they were physically restraining themselves from lunging across the table. Sophia just stared at her plate, blushing. She wasn't angry at him. She was just embarrassed that he'd made a scene. That was the moment everything clicked for me. The picture became crystal clear. The patient lawyer was gone. The man who'd just been fundamentally disrespected in his own home, in front of his friends, by a man living off his generosity. He was now in charge. I set down my fork and knife very slowly. I placed my hands together on the table and locked my eyes on Bruno. The friendly host had left the building. The prosecutor had just taken his place at the podium. That's a bold claim, Bruno, I said, my voice dangerously low. I'm interested in your reasoning. In your expert opinion, what does a better man for Sophia look like? Please, be specific. Lay out the criteria for me. Bruno was completely thrown. He was prepared for a shouting match. He wasn't prepared for a calm, methodical interrogation. Well, you know, he stammered. Someone more on her level. Creative. Someone who understands her. I see, I said, nodding. So the primary qualification is being a creative. Interesting theory. And I suppose you see yourself fitting this description, don't you? I think I understand her better than anyone, he said, puffing out his chest. Perfect, I said. So you're the gold standard. Let's examine that. Let's add some other factors to this analysis. Let's talk about something more concrete than feelings. Let's talk about investment. As everyone here knows, Sophia is in her second year of law school. It's a top-tier program with a price tag to match. I'm paying for all of it. It's a significant capital investment, of course, but it's also an investment investment of faith. Faith in her and faith in our future together. So my question for you, Bruno, as the self-proclaimed gold standard of what's best for Sophia, is this: what have you invested in her future lately, aside from your consistently negative opinions about me? Bruno's face went white. Sophia shot me a panicked look. Santiago, don't do this, she whispered. I held up a hand to silence her, eyes still fixed on Bruno. I'm not finished. Hold on. This is about to get intense. If you think he's handling this the right way, hit that like button right now. And drop a comment. Team Santiago or Team Bruno? Let me know below. Let's talk about the car she drives. It's safe. It's reliable. It gets her to law school and back. I bought it for her. Now, you have a car too, don't you, Bruno? A cool convertible that seems to break down a lot. In fact, Sophia's had to lend you money for repairs at least 3 times in the past 6 months, hasn't she? Money that came out of the household account that, by the way, only I contribute to. So in a very real sense, Bruno, not only am I investing in Sophia's future, I'm also paying to keep your little bohemian ride on the road. You're welcome. One of my friends at the table let out a laugh before covering it with a cough. Bruno looked like he'd been slapped. And finally, I said, leaning forward, lowering my voice, let's talk about this house. The roof over her head. It's mine. I pay the mortgage. I fix the things that break. You, on the other hand, have fallen so far behind on your rent that Sophia's had to cover you, again, with money I earned. So let me summarize your argument for the jury. I mean, for the table. Your position is that a man who provides a stable home, a reliable car, and a fully funded top-tier education is an inferior choice for Sophia. And that a better man, by your definition, is someone who's a financial black hole, who drains her resources, and who repays her kindness by systematically trying to sabotage her relationship, which can only stem from a pathetic, transparent, and deeply disturbing obsession. Is that a fair and accurate summary of your position, Bruno? I leaned back. The closing argument was complete. The room was in absolute silence. Bruno was a broken man, a witness who'd just been torn apart on the stand. He sat there, humiliated, unable to speak. I looked at my friends, who were all staring at Bruno with open contempt. And I looked at Sophia. Her face was a storm of emotions, but the one that won, the one that fought its way through the shock and embarrassment, wasn't relief. It wasn't gratitude. It was pure, incandescent fury. She jumped up from her chair, her legs scraping violently against the floor. Her whole body was shaking. I can't believe you just did that, she hissed. You humiliated him in front of everyone. He humiliated himself, Sophia, I said, my voice tired now. I just presented the evidence. Apologize to him, she demanded, her eyes burning with fire directed entirely at me. Right now? Apologize to my best friend for what you just did. Apologize or we're done. And there it was, the ultimatum, the final test. She was standing beside the wreckage of a man who'd just been exposed as a manipulative parasite, and she was defending him. She was choosing him. The love I felt for her didn't just die. It was executed. I looked at her, and for the first time, I saw her with perfect clarity. I didn't get angry. I didn't yell. I just smiled. A small, sad, and completely final smile. I didn't say another word. I stood up, grabbed my wine glass, and walked into the kitchen, leaving her alone in the silent dining room. The case was closed. The verdict was in. The aftermath of that dinner was swift. Sophia and Bruno left together in a cloud of drama. She moved in with him that very night. A decision, I'm sure, made in the heat of her rage and his humiliation. In her mind, she'd thrown down the gauntlet. She was waiting for me to come crawling back, to apologize, to do whatever it took to fix what I had broken. She had no idea that I'd simply accepted her terms. For 2 weeks, I disappeared completely. I didn't answer her calls. I didn't respond to the flood of text messages, angry at first, then confused, and pleading. I ignored the mutual friends she sent to plead her case. I was a ghost. Instead of chasing her, I got to work. My house, which had felt like our home, now felt like a crime scene. I spent a weekend methodically packing every single one of her belongings into boxes. It wasn't an act of anger. It was a purge. I was an executor liquidating the estate of a dead relationship. When I was done, I stacked the boxes in the guest room, changed all the locks, and reset the security codes. And I made 2 phone calls. They weren't pleasant, but they were necessary. They were the logical consequences of the verdict she'd handed down at that dinner. The consequences: call number 1, law school. The first call was to the director of the law school. I had a good relationship with him through my work as an alumnus. I explained in calm, professional terms that due to a permanent change in my personal circumstances, the private scholarship fund I'd established to cover Sophia's tuition was being dissolved, effective immediately. The consequences: call number 2, the internship. The second call was to the managing partner at my firm. I'd pulled a lot of strings to get Sophia a coveted summer internship there. It was an opportunity that would make her career. I explained that a serious and irreconcilable personal conflict of interest had arisen, and the offer needed to be rescinded. I felt no joy doing this, but my support for her was based on the foundation of our relationship. She'd shattered that foundation with a sledgehammer. She could no longer live in the house. Exactly 2 weeks after the dinner, she showed up at my door. I watched her through the security camera, fumbling with her key, her confusion turning to anger when she saw it didn't work. Finally, she rang the doorbell. I opened the door, leaving the security chain on. She looked terrible. The righteous anger was gone, replaced by exhausted desperation. The reality of living with a broke, narcissistic artist had clearly been harsh. Santiago, we need to talk, she said. No, Sophia, we don't have anything to talk about, I responded. You made your choice. The conversation is over. You can't throw away 3 years over one fight," she pleaded, tears starting to form in her eyes. I was angry. I wasn't thinking. "It wasn't a fight," I said. "It was a moment of truth. You were given a clear choice between your partner and the man who's been trying to destroy our relationship, and you chose him. You demanded I apologize to him. You chose to defend the parasite. That's not something I can forget." Panic started to take hold of her as she realized I wasn't going to budge. "But everything we planned," she stammered. "Law school, the internship." "Yes, about that," I said, letting the silence stretch. "Your last semester's tuition is due next week, isn't it? I hope you and Bruno have a plan for that, because my investment in our future has been canceled." Her face went pale. "What?" she whispered. "And the internship at my firm," I continued, relentless. "That offer has been rescinded. The firm takes conflicts of interest very seriously." She actually staggered backward, her hand going to her mouth. The internship was her golden ticket. The future she'd been so sure of was evaporating before her eyes. "You can't do that," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Santiago, please. You can't." "I already have," I said. "Actions have consequences. You gave me an ultimatum. Apologize or we're done." I chose. "Done. Now it's your turn to live with the consequences. Go ask Bruno for help, a man who's so much better than me. I'm sure his creative genius includes a plan to pay your 900,000 peso tuition and replace the career you just lost." I closed the door in her tear-streaked face. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel sad. I just felt calm. The trial was over. The consequences were predictable. Sophia's life fell apart. She had to drop out of law school, just months away from graduating. The dream was dead. Apparently, she and Bruno are still living together in his tiny apartment. I've heard from friends that it's a particular kind of hell. She's consumed with resentment over what he cost her, and he's trapped with a woman who's a constant, bitter reminder of his own inadequacy. He got the girl, but he got a broken version of her that he can't afford to fix.